If you were hurt at work in Texas and the insurance company is sending you a workers' comp check, I want you to look at one thing very closely. How much are they paying you every week? Because that number may not be random, it may not be fair, and it may not be right. In Texas workers' compensation, your benefit check is usually based on something called your average weekly wage, or AWW. And if the insurance company gets your AWW wrong, your checks can be too low every single week. So let's talk about what average weekly wage means, how it is calculated, and where insurance companies often get it wrong. Average weekly wage is basically the workers' comp system's way of asking, what was this injured worker earning before the injury happened? In most Texas workers' comp cases, the starting point is the 13 weeks before your injury. You take the wages you earned during those 13 weeks, add them up, and divide by 13. That gives you your average weekly wage. So simple example, if you earned $13,000 during the 13 weeks before you got hurt, your average weekly wage would be $1,000. But here's where people get tripped up. It is not just your hourly rate. It is not just your base pay. And it is not always just the number the insurance company decides to use. When we calculate average weekly wage, we need to look at everything you received in exchange for your work. That can include regular wages, it can include overtime, it can include bonuses. It can include commissions. It can include per diem in some situations. It can include housing or other benefits provided by the employer. The point is this: if the employer gave it to you because you were working, we need to ask whether it should be included in your AWW. And that matters because your AWW affects your benefits. A small mistake in the wage calculation can turn into a big problem over time. If your check is $75 too low every week, that may not sound huge at first, but over months, over a year, that adds up. Now, the 13-week rule works pretty well for some people, but real life is not always that clean. What if you are a construction worker and 1 week got rained out? What if work slowed down? What if you missed time because you were sick? What if there was a holiday week? What if you were available to work, but the employer just did not have hours for you? The insurance company may try to divide your earnings by 13 anyway, and sometimes that makes your average weekly wage look lower than it should. In the right case, there may be an argument for a more fair calculation, because workers' comp is supposed to reflect what you were really earning, not punish you for a weird week that does not represent your normal pay. Another common problem: what if you had not worked there for 13 weeks yet? Maybe you got hurt after 2 weeks. Maybe you got hurt after a month. Maybe you were brand new, but this was supposed to be a full-time job with steady pay. In that situation, the insurance company may not be able to use your own 13 weeks of wages because they do not exist. So the law looks to other ways to figure out a fair number. One common method is looking at a same or similar employee, someone doing similar work under similar conditions who did work during that 13-week period. But that can create another fight. Was that employee really similar? Did they work the same kind of schedule? Did they have the same opportunity for overtime? Were they doing the same job? Were they paid the same way? Because if the insurance company picks the wrong comparison employee, your benefits can be wrong from the beginning. Here is one that surprises a lot of injured workers. What if you had more than one job? Maybe you worked one job during the week and another job on weekends. Maybe you had a second job to make ends meet. Maybe your work injury keeps you from doing both jobs, not just the job where you got hurt. In Texas workers' comp, wages for multiple jobs may be included in the average weekly wage calculation if the rules are followed and the right paperwork is submitted. That can make a major difference, because if the insurance company only counts the job where you got hurt but ignores your second job, your check may be way too low. This is one of those issues where injured workers often do not know to raise their hand and say, wait a minute, you did not count all of my income. Now, I am not telling you every AWW calculation is wrong. Sometimes the insurance company gets it right, but we see problems all the time. They may miss overtime. They may leave out bonuses. They may ignore per diem or other wage benefits. They may use 13 weeks even when that does not fairly represent the worker's real earnings. They may use the wrong similar employee. They may fail to include wages from a second job, or they may rely on wage information from the employer that is incomplete. And remember, the insurance adjuster is not your accountant. The adjuster is not your lawyer. The adjuster is not sitting there trying to maximize your benefits. So when you get a workers' comp check, Do not just ask, did they pay me? Ask, did they pay me correctly? How do you prove your average weekly wage? If average weekly wage becomes an issue, the evidence matters. Helpful evidence may include pay stub, direct deposit records, W-2 DSER tax documents, employment contracts, timesheets, bonus records, commission records, proof of per diem, proof of housing or other benefits, and if you had more than one job, wage records from the other employer may be extremely important. This is not just about arguing, it is about proving the number, because in a workers' comp dispute, the person with the better evidence is usually in the better position. If you and the insurance company disagree about your average weekly wage, either side can file a dispute. It may be addressed through the Texas Workers' Compensation dispute resolution process, including a benefit review conference, and, if necessary, a contested case hearing. That sounds intimidating, but the issue is often very practical. What did you actually earn? What should have been counted? Was the insurance company's calculation fair? And what should your benefit rate really be? So if you are injured at work in Texas and your workers' comp check seems too low, do not ignore it. Do not assume the insurance company got the math right. Ask for the wage calculation. Look at the 13 weeks before your injury. Check whether overtime, bonuses, commissions, per diem, housing, or other wage benefits were included. And if you work more than one job, make sure that issue is not being overlooked. Because in Texas workers' comp, your average weekly wage can control how much money comes into your house while you are hurt and unable to work, and when you are already dealing with pain, medical appointments, and missed work. The last thing you need is a check that is smaller than it should be. If you have questions about your Texas workers' comp benefits, or you think your average weekly wage was calculated incorrectly, talk to a lawyer who handles these cases. Because sometimes the problem is not your injury. Sometimes the problem is the math.